This is so fantastic. Anytime that you can be a part of an album celebration, it's always so much fun. And we are so thankful, Brett Young, to have you here with us to celebrate your new release.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be talking about new music.
And a part of me feels like you're still a relatively new artist, but at the same time, I've already feel like your music has been with me throughout, quite a few different stages of my own life since 2018. So to be celebrating a new record is pretty exciting.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think, for me, it's every time I get to put out new music, it reminds me that I get to do this for a living. So, it's kind of like a throwback to how I even got here. So, I'm just grateful that people are still listening. I can't believe that this is my life.
I know, yeah, it's pretty exciting. So we're going to get into the weeds of this new album and some of your big hits. But first and foremost, want to ask, how is the family waiting on baby girl number two, girl dad?
They're good. Yeah, I'm gonna need to get like a bunch of boy dogs or something in my house because I'm outnumbered at this point. Everybody's good. Presley is just turned 19 months and she's a handful, but so much fun. And Taylor's pregnant. She's very pregnant, so we're due in the middle of July, and so I'm really excited to meet our new little girl, and life is good. I mean, it's the only thing that we're even worried about a little bit is that I got to go back to work after baby number two is born, but we're also grateful for that opportunity. So life is good, and we feel very blessed.
And I was going to say that obviously nobody wants a pandemic to happen, but kind of a good time for you in the sense that, you got to be there for a lot of firsts for your first baby. And, obviously now that you're awaiting baby number two, you probably have a bit of separation anxiety already starting.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, everybody said the same thing that had young kids when this whole thing hit. It's like, if there was a silver lining, we were home. And there's a little bit of this like, kind of light at the end of the tunnel where like we're going back to work and the whole thing. That scares me a little bit, only because I won't have the same first year experience with this next baby as I had with Presley. And that's just the reality of it. But if there was one thing that I was a little bit bummed out about, is that I got every day with Presley for her first year, and it's going to be kind of sporadic with baby girl number two. But we're not the first ones to do this job while having family at home, so we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And you had another celebration during a pandemic, turning 40. How can you celebrate a big milestone like that, being locked up?
Luckily it happened late enough that everybody in Florida was already crazy and letting people kind of go about their business. So, and I had been vaccinated and the whole thing. And so my wife actually planned a 40th birthday down in Miami, and it wasn't like a party. It was just the two of us who met another couple that we're friends with down there. And it was perfect, actually. Just laid on the beach and had good food and reminded ourselves that, the world will open up again soon. And yeah, I mean, it was everybody warned me that I was going to feel weird about turning 40, and it was pretty much the opposite for me. It was like kind of a liberating birthday for me. It was like, okay, well, here's the reality. You are 40, and this is what you do for a living, and this is your new family. And I just, I don't know, I felt this kind of peace about it, and it was a perfect way to celebrate it.
Well, and I think 40 is kind of the new 30. And I say that as someone in my 30s.
Absolutely.
I remember being like 20 and thinking that 40 was so far away, and, you'd be in this entirely different situation with an entirely different outlook on life. And then, as it starts to creep up, you kind of feel the same as a person. I think you probably have your stuff together a little bit better, but I can't imagine that you woke up the day you turned 40 and felt much different than when you're in your 30s.
No, I mean, it's a funny thing that we put on ourselves. It's like a birthday with a zero at the end of it. Like, doesn't really change anything. You're as old as you feel. And there was like a positive, though, for whatever reason. Like, it was when I realized you don't have to look at that. That doesn't mean anything. It's your birth certificate, is meaningless, and it was cool. It was like, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be in my life, with my wife and my daughter and another one on the way. at the age that it was supposed to happen. It just was like, it was a really, really like freeing and liberating feeling.
Yeah, and I think, being a new dad in this stage of life, it's more normal now too. And I think that makes us feel a little bit younger. Like when you look back when your parents and, your parents had kids, they were basically teenagers. So now I feel like we have the freedom to at least get ourselves together and to learn how to take care of ourselves before, growing into this family and trying to be responsible for more humans.
It's a different, like you said, 40 is the new 30. Like my parents generation were having kids when they were 19. It's like,
Yeah.
I had my first kid at 38. It's just, it's the grace and the freedom that you give yourself is just as important as anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, it's nice to look back, even your life over the past 5 years, say, like, you've lived a lot of life and got to accomplish a lot of stuff. And now to be in a position to, welcome new babies into your family and to have that foundation built. I mean, like, we're here today to celebrate the release of a new album. But then when we think back to, when you were fresh on the scene with your debut single, does that feel like a lifetime ago, or does that feel like it was just yesterday?
Yeah, that's the weirdest, like kind of contrast that I can think of in that I've experienced in my career is how that feels like both of the things you just asked. It feels like yesterday and a million years ago all at the same time. I don't really know how to explain that. I mean, I can put an actual date on it, but it feels like forever ago. And also I can't believe we're on our 8th single now. So it's a bit of a dichotomy there with it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, kind of hope for that, right? You kind of hope that it was so busy and so consistent that when you look back, you're like, that seems like yesterday. How long ago was that? That's kind of how I feel about Sleep Without You in the first record is like, I don't really know how, like from day to day, I could feel completely differently about how long ago that was.
Yeah, and I bet when you look back on, even 5 years prior to that, and all the ups and downs and changes that kind of happened over the years, what was it like when you decided, okay, I'm going to pursue country music, I'm going to release a single, and then the first time that you heard Sleep Without You on the radio, do you remember what that feeling felt like, or what your expectations or what you anticipated things would be
Yeah,
like?
I think I kind of approached all of that with a little bit of skepticism.
Hmm.
I hadn't lived in Nashville long, but I had been around the record business long enough to know that getting a record deal and sending a song to radio could stop there. Like it doesn't necessarily mean anything. We spent a lot of time and energy trying to pick the right single and the one that felt right to kind of introduce my music to the world. And I remember going like, this could go nowhere, or this could be everything all at the same time. And I played Sleep Without You had just come out literally that week. And I played a show in Vegas with the band Perry. And I drove straight from there to play Stagecoach, which was a festival that, it's an hour and a half from where I grew up in Southern California, that I had told myself I would never go as a fan. I'm not going there until I'm playing. And then the first year, the week my single comes out, I'm on the main stage at Stagecoach, playing like a noon slot in front of a very small fan base because nobody's there yet at noon. But we finished the set with Sleep Without You, and everybody that wasn't really paying attention came flooding. And I went, that's the power of radio right there. Like this song's been out this week only. And they're sprinting to the stage for this. And then we get in the car to drive away. And I was going to go see my parents in Orange County. So had a rental car, get in the car. And as I'm pulling away from that show, it comes on the radio at K Palm there in Palm Springs. And it's the first time I heard it on the radio. And I went like, this could work. This might happen, and it's a weird feeling to live in Nashville and see all the talent that's there and that isn't being given a chance. There's too many talented people for everybody to get a chance, and you realize how lucky you are and how fortunate you are.
And I think when people want to get into the music business, they kind of have their idols or the people they look up to, and they kind of want to be them. And then when you came along, it was kind of like the peak era of bro country. And then you come out with a song basically saying, I can't sleep without you. Like, we're not talking about like short shorts and butt shaking. We're talking about, I can't go to sleep without you. The opposite of like a bro country song. Like, it was kind of like a, you know, sort of a love song, sort of like a vulnerable song that wasn't really happening in country music at that time. So I guess it, you know, I guess it kind of goes to show you can blaze your own path and try something that's completely true to you, and it can work.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing that's worked for me, is me being honest and vulnerable. That's literally the formula. It doesn't matter if I'm writing a ballad or an up-tempo song. If I'm not connected to it, I'm not putting it out, because I can't imagine asking a fan base to continue to be invested in a career where I'm just lying. So, but I do think that like that bro country era was the thing that broke the barrier and made it possible for me to come, because even though I'm not writing those types of songs, sonically, I don't think I would have worked in country music 5 years before I moved to Nashville, because I think it was too traditional for me then. So I think it did open another lane musically for me to come in and still do the kind of bleeding heart thing that I do, but with the music that I pair it with. And so, I mean, it all kind of happens for a reason. You know, I believe God's timing was intentional for me to come to Nashville when I did.
And then to follow that up with a song that I know, you know, still to this day, and not like it's been that long, but In Case You Didn't Know. I mean, again, that was another song where I think sometimes artists are a little hesitant to put out ballads, especially early in their career. And, you know, you might get radio saying like, oh, too slow, low tempo, you know, we want a party upbeat song. And then you drop this completely ballad love song. And being, you know, a new artist, were you ever deterred from doing that, or was that kind of like, you know, no questions asked, this is going to be what I follow up and
It
debut with?
was absolutely a conversation the whole time. It is every time. I mean, I've now, I think I put out 4 ballads. You know, like I know that's a no-no. I know that I'm getting away with something right here, but it's a conversation every time. And for us, it's always, you know, we sit down with everybody from management to the label to publishing to go like, okay, what's the right decision here? What's radio asking for? Radio's always saying, is Brett really sending us another ballot? I know, I get that. We talk about that. But we also, like, when we sit down and talk about it, the thing that we always come back to is, we get it, but what's the best song? You know, because isn't the right thing to do to send the best song every time? And so, yeah, I mean, it was, In Case You Didn't Know, was a hard decision, but not really, because we kind of wanted to start with that one. You know,
Right.
we actually already made the hard decision to go with Sleep Without You because it was up tempo, just because we know that formula. But I mean, I think the crazier thing for me with In Case You Didn't Know is we didn't know how big it was going to be. Like, I think forever that will be the career song for me. And it's weird that happened with my second single off my first record, you know? So I love that song so much, but the coolest thing about that song is that it continues to be people's wedding song. So that song,
Yeah.
like, I love that a sentiment and a concept that I was a part of creating, it has been attached to so many people's special days. So yeah, it's always hard to decide on a ballad. We labor over that decision every time we come with one. But that one was one of the easier ones, because we wanted to start with my first single being In Case You Didn't Know. So we knew we were coming with that one.
Yeah. And with your first album, and I mean, obviously we're going to get to the new album here in a few minutes, but I find it fascinating because I think I read that you said you lived 10 of the 12 songs on that album. Like, these aren't songs that were just dropped on your lap and, okay, I'm going to go in here and record it. I mean, you go through a roller coaster of emotions on that debut album, but having lived that, you know, once you were done with that album and went on to album number 2, was there ever any thought of like, what do I have anything left in me to write something that honest again? Or, you know, did life just catch up with you and give you more material?
I mean, I think that first album, the process of writing that first album, I think was the most like eye-opening thing that I've ever gone through, because I realized what you just asked. I realized, like, I do actually have to pour that much of myself into the next batch of songs. And how can I do that? Because I just, they always say this though, you write your first record and you get to tell your whole life story, and then your next record you get to tell an 18-month story. That's not necessarily true, but I get what they're saying. You really have to find creative ways now to, pack enough stuff into the last 2 years to sound as interesting and as authentic and like you said, vulnerable as your first album sounded. And like, it seems impossible, but when you start thinking about it, there are tricks and not necessarily tricks, but there are ways to kind of go backwards again. And you'll see that in the new record that we're putting out. I'm telling stories about when me and Taylor started dating 13 years ago in this record, but I'm telling it from my current perspective now. So there's like ways to not write 8 songs about my daughter on a record that is still supposed to be representative, like where I am right now. So there was a lot that I had to learn about how do you keep being this transparent while your life has changed so much in the last 2 years. It was, I feel like I'm constantly being pushed as a writer, but I enjoy that part of it.
And is there ever a moment where, because you had mentioned, Taylor and yourself have been together for 13 years, and obviously, we go back to that debut album, and there's a lot of ups and downs with the relationship. Is there ever a time where maybe you're in the car and like a song comes on and it's just awkward that you're just like, oh gosh, yeah, I didn't think about, what it would feel like later when we're married, and that's smoothed over.
Yeah, luckily the big one from the first record, because when my first album came out, we were broken up. And the one from the first record that really gets her, like she just doesn't enjoy it, and I don't blame her, is a song called You Ain't Here to Kiss Me that I wrote about our last breakup. And luckily that didn't go to terrestrial radio, so it's not like we get in the car and it comes on. But still, like that, it makes her feel a certain kind of way when she hears that song.
And I can definitely sympathize with that, because I think every woman who hears it feels bad. You're just like, completely heartbroken over that. So I can only imagine,
it all turned out just fine. It all turned out
exactly. Yeah. So was there a time though, before you kind of rekindled, where that was just like lighting a match, or did she just kind of, okay, that's your story, go tell it?
Yeah, no, she's incredible. Like when we got back together, we were both like very much on the same page, and we, for her, she understands that that's part of this business, and so she doesn't take anything personally. Also, it's songwriting. It's not like I filmed our breakup. There's I embellish to make the song better. Everybody does that, but at the same time, we were broken up. It's like, when I write songs about our story now, it's the exact opposite. It's a love story. And so we've kind of been, transparent with the world from the beginning. And so she's like, as much as she doesn't like to hear it, most of it is because she doesn't like that it happened.
Right.
And she feels bad for the part she played in it. And so do I. And for whatever it's worth, she would support my career above asking me to stop playing a song live that made her a little bit uncomfortable.
Right. And I think it's so great now too, because you're making new fans all the time. And I think once fans discover, your first album, your second album, and some of that music, and then, they get the full story and connect it, I think it makes your relationship with your fans so much more real. And I mean, we live in a world where people want to know everything about their favorite celebrities. I mean, they would literally want to have a camera inside of your home to see everything. So to be able to get the music version of that, I can only imagine that it strengthens your connection with your fans.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think I think my wife feels the same way. She's like, listen, I'd rather not hear that. I'd rather you never wrote that, but I get it. And I mean, she'll support my decisions artistically all the way down the line. I mean, I'm gonna have to figure out what we've written a song about, starting a family. I don't know what the next record looks like either. She's gonna support all of that. I know she is. And I'll never be disrespectful like I haven't in the past. But it is interesting to go back and listen to breakup songs that you've written about the girl you're now married to and have a family with. But
yeah, that's how it happens.
that's
so
life.
The new album, And the new album, Weekends look a little different these days. I can imagine that that is very autobiographical. I'm sure your weekends look very different. Um, what was your, did you know that that's what you wanted to name your album? Like, did you want it, to really be right out of the gate, a total reflection? I'm in a different place. Life is different. Um, Come with me on this next journey.
Um, Not initially. It really started with the idea for the song itself. Just the reality is I was sitting watching college football and my daughter was in my lap drinking a bottle, and I went, I used to watch football at a bar. This is very different. And then that kind of spun into the realization that touring will look different when we get back on the road, and that spun into the realization that that isn't just my story because I travel. It's everybody's story once they start having kids. And so I got together with two songwriters that are both dads, and we wrote that song from what felt like the exact same perspective. And so when we got back together, I knew it would be on the record. When we got back together to pick the 8 songs for this collection, it felt like the most accurate in one song picture of what I wanted this collection to embody. And you can always just not talk about the 8th song. Like, this is like 7 songs of this is like me right now, and then this is but also I'll always put a sad song on the record for everybody that needs it. But Weekends just felt like the song that said the most in one song, that kind of captured the rest of them. I really like that it doesn't have to be about the weekends of a country artist that's touring. It can literally be somebody that used to go to the bar to watch Saturday football, but now it's a neighborhood picnic and he's grilling, whatever it is, whatever starting a family and moving into a cul-de-sac changed about your life. I mean, you're going to relate to this song. So it just made the most sense to me.
Yeah, and the first single from the album, Lady, blew up, and what a great song. And again, it's one of those songs where it's such a unique take. You're releasing a very nice song for your wife, which I'm sure redeemed you for for some other songs. B, you're having a great open story to your daughter, and it's a song that I personally was surprised how many people related to it and gravitated towards it. Men, women, mothers, daughters, sons. It just seemed like a song that everybody kind of heard and just thought, that I kind of wish I said that.
I'd be lying if I said that I didn't know that we were taking I guess the right word is unique, but kind of manipulative approach to the song. I wrote, one of the writers on it was John Knight, and John Knight had just written a song called Boy that Lee Brice had just put out. And so John's whole thing was John has a daughter. The other writer was Ross Copperman, also a girl dad. John's whole thing was, I just don't want to write boy all over again for a girl. So John was the one that insisted that there was a different twist. But when I already had the title Lady, because it was like a nickname I used for my wife all the time, I'd be like, all right, lady, what do you need, lady? It was always kind of like this kind of jokey nickname. But I knew I wanted to use that title for little lady or lady. And John goes, well, what if it's her mom teaches her how to be lady? And I was like, you know why that's genius? Because I'll get credit from my wife right now. And then years from now, when my daughter's old enough to understand, I'll get credit again. So yeah. I knew that it was going to open up a world of infinite possibilities. Like you said, guys can relate, moms can relate, children can relate. That was not unintentional.
And it worked really well. So I'm glad to see that that formula worked the way that you had hoped it would. But
thank you, me too.
And it's again, you're kind of sitting there, and it's one of those songs that when it comes on, you really pay attention because it's also telling you a story. You want to find out what is this song, and people just love it. It has done so well for us on Pure Country.
Well, thank you for playing it.
Now you have a new single from the album, Not Yet. Little more up tempo. Any reasoning that you want it to go with this one now to be the second off of this new album?
Yeah, a lot of reasons, but like the most obvious reason is coming off of a song like Lady that was like really sentimental and also down tempo. Coming into the summer, like this, Not Yet is just like the most sweet, kind of easy, universal topic, right? And it's up tempo, and it's the music is very like joyful, and it just felt like the right way to come to the summer to go like, all right, guys, I made you cry again. You're probably tired of that, so here's something to make you feel good. And I mean, we wrote the song so that the story is not too specific for everybody to be able to go, I remember that one night that was so good, I wish it never had to end. And so you can plug, like anybody's able to plug their experience into the song, and like takes them back to that place rather than trying to take them to my place. It was completely conceptual. It wasn't a story itself, but it was a concept. And it just, I haven't written a song with Justin and Kelly since Sleep Without You. So it was just fun to get back to that trio as well.
And just to kind of pick out one more song before I let you go, I was going to ask you, if you could go back and tell yourself any piece of advice, or, if you look back on times you really sweat the small stuff and, you kind of found out later you didn't need to. I was going to ask you what you would tell yourself. And then I heard, Dear Me. And I'm like, I feel like this answered my question. I'm guessing that too, very autobiographical song, pretty related to your own lived experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to write my version of Brad Paisley's song, which, he talks to his much younger self. I wanted to talk to the me that started the relationship with Taylor, and basically say like, what if you knew that all this stuff that you're laboring over just ends up with you ending up back with her? Would you settle down? Would you stress out less? Would you be less sad? And none of us ever get that opportunity, but it doesn't have to result in you ending up with the girl. It just has to result in you knowing how it turns out, whatever that is. And I honestly believe that if God takes something from you, it's because he has something better for you. And in my case, it was the same girl, but she was ready to be with me. I was ready to be with her. It was still better. So whatever that looks like, that was my letter to myself. And I think, everybody can relate to that. It's hindsight's 2020. So I think if you could look back on your life, there's a lot of things that you would tell yourself about how to handle or feel things differently.
So do you think that, if you could have known back then, do you think you would want to know? Like, I'm sure there was many days where, you just feel awful, and would you want to know this is going to work out the way that I want it to? Or do you think that going through that is what made this better?
I think that's also hindsight's 2020. I don't know if we would have been ready for each other if we didn't go date other people. But if I knew we were going to end up together, maybe I wouldn't have dated other people. So your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. And we will get to that next time on Dr. Phil.
Yes, I think I like the way that it worked out, so I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, and it seems like it's worked out very well, and kind of in that magical way where I think you also needed that honesty for the career that you were able to ignite in country music.
Absolutely.
Without all of that, I mean, what would you have sung about?
That's right.
It would have been harder. Yeah. Yeah. So, but now I'm very excited for this new chapter and this new album. I'm looking forward to what's going to come next. And I'm so excited for this record. I love it. Listen to it front to back, as I'm sure you could tell. But weekends look a little different these days. New album now available. And Brett Young, thank you so much for talking to Pure Country.
Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and all the support.
Thank you.